And you notice on the underrun heel horses, collapsed heel horses, the buttress might be very long and very forward, but you lose vertical height because the longer that comes, the heels start to sink over. Okay, so what we also see with these collapsed heels is a big gap down in here. Okay, it becomes very pronounced down in there because the frog with those horses is becoming prolapsed, isn't it? The sole's flattening. So you also get a big gap down in here. What I do because I don't have x-rays, I have to work with the reference points that I have. And if you go here, if you run your finger down the coronary down the front of the pastern, it goes into a hole, okay, just above the coronary band. And basically vertical of that, you run your finger down, it touches there. You can put a marker there when somebody's taking x-rays just to confirm it. But that would be somewhere through the center of articulation. We drop a vertical line. I can't see it, but I'm not quite at the side. Is that somewhere in line with that? Yeah. Would that be somewhere there? Somewhere there anyway? Okay, if you look at it now, there's the heel and there's the toe. And if you look at it, look how much support we've got behind the center of articulation compared to the ground surface in front. And people have been very much into the angle of the wall. The angle of the wall is a very small part. So if you think about it, that doesn't work against the ground, does it? So that ground reaction force is what works against the ground. And it's surface areas that are working against the ground. The horse's foot is going onto the ground, either not supported enough and sinking in too much at the heels, or when he goes to break over, because he's got this big amount of surface area in front of the center of articulation, he can't break over as easy. But it's that ground reaction force that's working against you. So right now, what have we got? Probably 60%, 40%? Would that be somewhere near? And we'll check it again once we've got the shoe off, because that's with the shoe on. We'll check it again with the shoe off, because we're going to try to improve that with the trim. Okay, because it's easy just to stick on a longer shoe and make that 60% behind. I'm not talking about doing that. I'm talking about doing these reference point on the untrimmed and then trimmed foot. I think if we look at it from the front, something center line, if we go each distance, equal distance each other center, I think we'll see it just a little bit longer on the outside than on the inside, toe quarter. So we're going to be looking for that as well when we pick the foot up. But I haven't picked the foot up to look at medial lateral balance yet. But when I pick it up, that's what I'll be looking to see. Okay, and I'm going to give you, this is a hands-on clinic. I'll give you all chance to, well, not all, but most of you, try and have a look and to see if we agree. And I don't care whether, if you disagree, fine. I'm going to tell you where and how I see it. Using our tools, it doesn't matter how you use them, you can either use them well or badly, and it takes about the same amount of effort. You know, it's like using a knife. Well, a knife wants to leave no marks. You know, you don't see a great sculptor leaving marks all over the statue and saying that's good. So when you're using your knife, you can use your knife and trim everything, but you shouldn't see every time where you've moved the knife. You don't want to see like you've used a potato peeler to trim the foot. I don't want to see knife marks, I don't want to see rasp marks, and I don't want to see nipper marks. Okay? I don't mind that you've trimmed it, but I don't want to see the marks. And so it's to develop that skill every day, and it takes no longer. You know, I'm not talking about slowing your shoeing down. I'm talking about just doing it well. Look at that distance compared to that distance. We probably have 60%, 40%. Okay? It's now how can we improve that in the trim? There's almost a broken bar there. You see the crack in it? Right there? Those are hoof distortions. Because this heel is folding forward, the bar couldn't bend anymore, so it's fractured. Center of our articulation, center of the coffin joint, somewhere in that area. So it gives us an idea of that we are working off a reference point. Being able to visualize it. Can you visualize a vertical post in the middle of that field? Okay, 45. You can do it. It takes a little bit of practice. And I do that with my shoeing. So right now, yeah, I've taken the time to draw these lines on. I would normally visualize them. If we look at our heels, we can see that the coronary band is folding down, bending at this point. Can you see where it bends? It's vertical to the last point of weight bearing. And you see that the coronary band comes down to this point, comes down and bends over. You can see it here on this side, comes to about this point, and then bends. If I drop it on the floor, you can see it. See the coronary band comes to there and starts to drop off. If you drop a vertical line from that bend, that's where the end of your heel is. What's happening is the heel is falling over, so it's not supported. There's not enough bearing surface behind behind the quarters, and that's falling over. So we want to see that improve, change the shape of that. It may mean putting on a frog support. It may not. You may be able to just do it with a trim. But I'm using all those reference points. I don't believe in just raping feet with a knife. I feel like take away the loose. The bottom of the foot belongs, some of it belongs to the horse for me. But can you see I've left no knife marks? There's no physical cut marks. And I don't want to see cut marks. How much more does the frog really need than that? I can make it pretty with a knife. It's really easy just to carve it up. And you notice I left the sides pretty upright. You notice a lot of people V the frog up a lot. And I would say that's wrong. Why? I have to be able to give a reason behind it. But if you take off a sole when you do a dissection and look at the sensitive frog underneath the horny frog, the sides of the sensitive frog are quite upright. You know when you V a frog up, have anybody ever run into blood right in those corners?
I never did that, but yeah.
Because we can over V a frog. And if you look at this, if you look at a dissection, and we've all run across a dead horse, just take the sole off and the frog, and you'll see the shape of the natural frog underneath. And that's what you should be creating on top of it, is nice protection for that sensitive frog, digital cushion. So I don't believe in over V'ing the feet, and I know where, I learned it when I was in Texas, V the Marais, and that's where you'd see that, if you just got a little bit deep, you'd get a nice, you could see the translucent line in the corners. You never saw it on the top really, or on the sides, only in those corners, because you were cutting the corner away. Now, how we use our nippers is really important. The nippers, the blades of the nippers are perpendicular to the handles, okay? So if I lean my nippers one way or the other, that's the way that foot's going to lean. If I go around that foot, all leaning my nippers in all the way around, then that foot's going to lean that way. So I've got to be very careful, and I'm thinking in my mind of keeping this nipper so that the blades are perpendicular. That's the fastest way to make a farrier error, is to start using your nippers inappropriately. I'm just going to nip one side of this foot just to show you, because a lot of people still believe that you shouldn't take the heels. And I'm going to trim one side off, take away the, and can you see here where he's been weight bearing? You see that like wear pattern there? That's where he's been standing on the concrete. And what's happening as he puts weight on it, it's rolling over more. Okay? So I'm taking this roll off. And look now, look at the shape of this. It's not quite as curled in anymore, is it? And I've got a surface to put my shoe on. I've got a surface to put the shoe on. And look how much I've I should put this line across here again. Look how much I've extended the heel support compared to that side. So I know when I lived here in Texas, it was like, don't touch the heels. Problem is I keep leaving the heels go forward, and I actually keep increasing the percentage at the toe. And you can take too much heel, but it's just as important to shorten the heels as it is to shorten the toe. And look how much improved in shape that foot is now. And look now how much the surface area I've got to put the shoe on. So instead of having that crushed area where the shoe's going to crush it more, I've got a nice surface area, and I've hardly lost any vertical height because that just kept rolling over. And I use the guideline taking the heels down to the widest point of the frog. Now you may not be able to do that in one trimming. I'm aiming for them to come to the widest point of the frog, but it may not happen on the first trim. But how much have I moved them back now? Quite a bit. So what I look at is I'm moving in a positive direction. I can be happy that I'm happy with that. You see the foot is straightened in this area, and that's caused because of the leverage on the toe. If you take a paper cup and pull it like this, like you elongate the foot, well, the sides get straighter, don't they? So you can't always just say, oh, well, the foot's got straight white line in that area. Look what happens when I just pull the front of this. It gets narrow in these areas, isn't it? Okay, put leverage on the toe, gets straight here in the toe quarters. So looking at the white line and saying, oh, well, it's supposed to be like that, look at the white line, you're looking at distortion. Because if I do that, it changes shape. And if you take a hoof, a dead hoof, one of those ones that's sloughed, all it is a cup, isn't it? If you put pressure here, it goes that way. If you put pressure here, it goes the other way. Push here, and you can start to distort it that way. Can you see if I push here, I cause distortion there. So that's why the coronary bands can become distorted if I leave one side long. Put pressure here, you get distortion. Can you see what I've done? I've worked it from the toe quarter here, where I've got my toenail, to my toenail there. Can you see? And I put a radius in there. And now I'm going to go from the toenail around to the heel. Just put a nice radius. Isn't that easier? Isn't that an easier shape to fit a shoe to? And it's not like I've just carved something really artificial there by thinning the wall. I've just enhanced the shape that is there. I'll start at the bottom. And you can see how much I've removed. Not a... And there, I've only dressed one side. But say I've started at the bottom, and I feel like you look at the outside, you can still see it like flaring away. So that's the approach I will take. And I've got to leave enough to nail it. There's no point leaving a cripple behind. See, we really should remove that. Look, can you see that?
Yeah.
And if we don't, it's going to catch up with him, I think, in my opinion. I don't think I can get up into there. I'll just polish that footer. I believe some of that separation's there because of the leverage. Because if you've got leverage on the white line and get it shreddy, it can travel up the white line easier. And what you want to watch him now, I feel like he's changed already, and it's me being biased. He was very much further forward in front of vertical before I started, and he's more vertical now. He's actually vertical with this leg and behind vertical with the other one.